Hey, Global Village. Okay, it occurs to me that I have not yet talked about a giant asshat who goes by the name of Donald Jehoshaphat Trump. No, it's actually John, but I prefer Jehoshaphat. Uh, and I thought one of the things I would like to talk about is who people tend to compare him with in history, because I'm sure it's no surprise to anyone that people who don't like Donald Trump tend to compare him to Hitler. I would suggest somewhat hyperbolically, but not entirely so. But that is not who I compare Trump to historically. Who I compare Trump to is this guy, and we're just going to hear a very short speech he makes in 1940 when he's declaring war against Britain and France.
La dichiarazione di guerra è già stata consegnata agli ambasciatori di Gran Bretagna e di Francia.
Okay, so that was just a very short snippet of Mussolini historically declaring Italy was now at war. And what you'll notice is he had a tremendous fan base. People loved him. Now, I have compared Trump to Mussolini pretty much right ever since I heard people comparing him to Hitler, because I don't think you can compare Trump to Hitler in quite a number of ways. He lacks Hitler's diabolic tactical ability. Hitler was a horrifically effective military campaigner in a way that I don't believe Trump could ever be. But Trump shares a number of things in common with Mussolini, and one of them is he is a real talented demagogue. And just to clarify, a demagogue is someone who says very short, snappy, little, easy to repeat mantras that typically don't make any sense at all if you apply any sort of depth of critical thinking to them. A classic example is build the wall. You'll remember, I think it was in his 2016 campaign, where he was, I'm going to build a wall. It's going to be the best wall you ever saw. And, his constituents just lapped it up. They latched onto it as a mantra, almost a kind of hypnotic way of tapping into the kind of the racism and bigotry latent in all of his, all of his supporters. And Mussolini was kind of the same. There are videos of him talking about peace, in a way that Trump talks about peace through strength and stuff like that. Oxymorons basically. And again, everyone really digging it. So he had that skill of just tapping into the ignorant and the uneducated, and just inflaming their passions and their fears. And this is what Donald Trump is doing very well. And as we saw here, it ultimately culminated in the declaration of war. Now we think, couldn't get that far with Trump, but we always saw that it did get that far, very close to starting a war with Iran. And in fact, it was only, I believe, Iran's remarkable restraint that it didn't escalate into war. Because if we just take a moment to examine exactly how Iran responded, what they did was they gave America forewarning in response to the fact that their nuclear plants had just been bombed with like 20 or 30,000 pound bunker busters. Their response was to contact America, tell them, hey, we're going to lob some missiles towards your military base in Qatar. So, get everyone out of there, get any valuable equipment you have out of there, so, we can just stage this kind of official retaliation to, I guess, offer some sort of pacification to their own population that they were actually retaliating. And so that's what they did. It was a nothing burger of a response. They did then continue to assault, send missiles towards Israel, but I would point out it was far from a devastating blow. What they actually did to Israel was quite tactically clever. They just continued to send, random amounts of missiles in their direction. First of all, terrorizing the Israeli population in a way that they're not really used to, constantly having to head to bunkers as the sirens went off any time of the day and night, exhausting the population. And not only exhausting the population, but also exhausting their missile defense systems. So they were having to use a lot of defense missiles because they were constantly having random amounts of missiles being fired in their direction. And as it turned out, a number of missiles got through and some very significant sites were hit, most notably their port in Haifa, which has had significant financial repercussions for the future, as that port is very much in doubt now as being seen as a central trading hub, which will have the implication of billions of dollars of future revenue lost. But I digress. The point is that, Trump got very, very close to getting America into a war with a country of over 90 million people. Now, let me tell you, if you thought Iraq was a quagmire, it would be nothing compared to Iran. For starters, Iran has a very inhospitable terrain. If America wanted to drop troops into Iran, it's going to have a hell of a time trying to maintain supply lines because of the environment upon which it's going to be dropping its troops in. And if it tries to resupply any supply lines, its helicopters and whatnot are going to be sitting ducks for surface-to-air missiles. Quite cheap missiles will actually get the job done and take down their helicopters and anything like that when they try to, resupply their troops. So the bottom line is it would be an incredibly costly war because they could never win a war with Iran through air power only. They could cause terrible devastation to Iran's major cities and such like, but they could not win the war in exactly the same way they could not win in Iran through an air campaign only. And but the costs to soldiers would be vastly greater. Iran has at least twice the number of people. It's a much larger surface area than Iraq, and the terrain is far more inhospitable. So we got pretty damn close, and it's not over yet. Israel may yet contrive a way to drag America back into conflict with Iran. I actually don't think that will happen because I think Israel has actually realized that they had bitten off more than they could chew. And I think like any bully, as soon as they realize they're outmatched, they very quickly tuck tail and run. But at some point it is still possible. It just may not be for a while. But I do believe Israel at some point will try to provoke another conflict with Iran when they feel the moment is right, if they feel the moment is right. And hopefully that moment will never come. What else can I say about Trump? The other thing I can say about Trump is that he is a cult leader. And I'm sure most people have probably heard that before. But it is absolutely the case. And I think we have to examine what cult leaders do in context of the way he appears to be having real trouble with his own base in relationship to the Epstein list, or the fact that now there apparently is no Epstein list. Because if you look at the way a classic cultist treats its followers, well, they abuse and gaslight them. That is what they do. And the cultists fall ever deeper into their trance and control. So, in effect, what's happening here is that some of Trump's cultists will break away, but others will finally come to the horrific realization that they either give up all their belief systems and they let go of everything that has defined their identity and their worldview by recognizing who Trump really is, or they perform the necessary mental gymnastics to stay in the cult. And the majority of them, I believe, absolutely will do whatever they need to do to rationalize their continued subservience to their great leader. And, a few people will leave, the majority will stay. And those that stay will become even more loyal to Donald. And I think this spells real trouble for the future, because if you're looking at the midterms right now, we can already see that Trump is talking about doing some gerrymandering, which is redrawing the boundary lines of certain voting areas to his own advantage. It's just a clever tactic you can do to where you can kind of give up a district that you're already going to lose by stealing some of the voter base that's still loyal to you and adding them to another region where you have a sort of marginal contested possibility of winning that seat, thus ensuring that you do get that seat. So you give up the seat that you knew you were already going to lose, and you strengthen up the seat that is contested so that you do win it. And, they've sat down, done the numbers, and figured out that they can mess with a few regions and pick up a few seats. And this is a clear sign of anti-democratic behaviour. I think when it comes to the midterms, it's going to be a very, very important indicator of what we're likely to see further down the road. If he does do this gerrymandering, if he perhaps does one or two other things to ensure that he actually does win the midterms and maintains control of the House, then that spells that's very, very grim in what it says about the next general election when it comes round, in which I suspect he'll have 2 more years to continue to break down the efficacy and the validity of the voting system to further rig it towards the Republicans' benefit. And you've got to take this seriously. He is not about democracy in the same way that Vladimir Putin is not about democracy. He's about the charade of democracy. Again, we only have to go back and look at the Putin's last election, and if you actually want to take an objective look at it, if you're not a Putin apologist, which, as I spoke to in my last video, unfortunately I think some people have become very much Putin apologists because they've become ideologues beholden to a worldview that just simply will not allow them to criticize Putin. Well, if you do look at what Putin did, it was a joke of an election. He got rid of his valid competition by imprisoning them, and then the people that he allowed to campaign against him were not effective opposition. He always knew they were not effective opposition, and this was reflected in the results of the election, where he won by some incredible amounts. It was beyond 95%. I think, as I said in a previous video, you do not win by that volume in a genuine democracy. There are always going to be people who think differently, who have different ideas and are going to vote differently. That kind of popularity just doesn't happen in a democracy. But according to Putin, it did happen, and because he's just that good, his ideas are just that impressive. Whatever. Anyway, I think that's all I've got to say on the matter. I just want to show one other thing, and I guess this might actually relate to another video I want to make in the future. So I just want to talk about Wikipedia for a moment. So let's have a listen to what Wikipedia has to say about Donald Trump.
Wikipedia coverage of Donald Trump has been a subject of controversy, largely on the English language version, since 2015 after he launched his 2016 United States presidential campaign. Trump's Wikipedia article and related pages have sparked debate between Wikipedia editors, and have also often been vandalized.
Right, so the only point I want to make here is Wikipedia as a source of information. Because actually, while Wikipedia is not perfect, it is actually very good. And by and large, we can trust what it is talking about, the basic facts that it is putting down on the ground about a given individual. And the reason we can trust it is precisely because of what we just read here, in that it is a group effort. It is by way of consensus that details make their way into Wikipedia. So whenever you get a very controversial topic where there tends to be a lot of debate about what the facts of the matter are, then this will be heavily contested and debated. And with an extremely divisive figure like Donald Trump, we can see that it has presented that challenge for Wikipedia, that a lot of people with opposing views about what the facts are, in inverted commas, are going to war over the subject. And the reason I wanted to point that out is I thought at a later video I will probably go through and we'll just go in detail and see what Wikipedia has to say about, for example, Vladimir Putin. And then we'll see how that lines up with the idea that he is not an authoritarian dictator and is just a man of the people, or whether in fact there's something else going on there. All right, Bendy out.